Welcome back to the SOS Podcast. Chey, Brittany, Lyndsay, back with episode 15. Today, we are going to be talking about how to get your shit together and the 5 pillars of life that you can focus on to help you do that. So, Brittany, you want to kick us off, ma'am?
Yeah, so the reason that we actually had this brought up was because a couple weeks ago we were talking about like how we all seem to be in this phase where we're kind of like rebuilding, rediscovering, and like, you know, are trying to re-get our shit together, you know, t- entering different parts of life or phases of life and things like that. And I just remember saying to Lindsay, like, I want to be the version of myself that was most on top of it and had my shit together. And she very quickly was like, I knew that version of you and you were sick all the time. Like your body didn't like that version of you. And so I was like, oh, damn. Okay, well, I wasn't doing it right. And so we kind of started talking about what does it mean to do it right and why do neurodivergent people have a hard time creating routines but are much happier and more successful for the most part with some kind of routine, and why that is bullshit, obviously, but how we can, fix that and kind of what to look at. So, I just hearing about it, the 5 pillars of life, the 5 pillars of success, which Lindsay might talk about later, but that's a little bit different. But the 5 pillars of life, and I've heard this years and years ago in the beginning of my personal development journey. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is like if you don't have a routine and you want to create one, but you're like not the you don't have to wake up at 4:30 a.m. and cold plunge. Like we've talked about this before. Whatever your routine that makes you the most optimal, successful, focused, flowy version of you, that's the routine you should build. So, what are the categories that you kind of look at when building one of those routines? So, I created a visual aid. And so I will try to share my screen here.
And I just want to put out there for everybody watching very quickly is even if it's not these 5 pillars, you should have some sort of a gauging system to determine where you're at and if you're balancing or spreading your life across the toast that is, everything that we do evenly. Like, or how are you buttering your bread, so to speak?
Baby, I'm a butter your bread.
And like, yeah, because like we have to, I think, like live with some sort of direction and intention because otherwise it can be very like sporadic and we lose track. And then all of a sudden we're like, holy crap, I haven't focused on my mental or financial or physical health. And it's been like 8 months. Like that has 100% happened to me before where I'm like, oh my God, I stopped being intentional. And I think neurodivergent people have to be even a little bit more intentional with their decisions and the way that they live their life. So
And I can't agree with that more. I feel like intention is like the key word for so many things in my life because whenever I feel like I'm off track or whatever, it's like I'm not being intentional enough. If I feel like
totally.
guilty at the end of the day or the week or the month of how I've used my time, it's because I haven't been intentional enough. If I find myself like, unhappy with the relationships that I have, it's probably because I haven't been intentional enough. And so I think that that's what I like about this. I'm a very like visual, tactical person, so stuff like this helps me. However you guys learn, I encourage you to find resources that are adapted to that style. But in general, and these are interchangeable as far as like the terms you use, but in general, these are kind of like the 5 things that we talk about when creating a routine. These are the 5 things that a comprehensively successful life typically will take into consideration. And when you're doing well across all spectrums, you're taking these 5 things into account because this is like kind of what we all have going on all the time. And the first one, and these are not in any particular order, it's just very convenient that the health bucket is first because I think that's the most important bucket because health is wealth. Like if you've ever been sick, even for like had a respiratory illness and you like couldn't breathe, like all you could think about was how you can't breathe and how you miss being able to breathe. And so health is one of those things that can sneak up on you. Everyone has a different kind of starting point, I guess, when it comes to this. And so whatever you define your health as, but within that, your physical, mental, energy, movement, your sleep, your nourishment, things like that. Like, maybe you're in your 20s and you're like staying up till 3 or 4 a.m. and just eating processed food, and you're still hot and you're like getting away with it. Just wait. Wait until you're
Well,
mid
even
to
like
late
beyond
20s.
like any like extensive hangovers or the anxiety that comes with hangovers when you're older, or any weight gain, inflammation, things like that. Those are crappy like physical side effects, but the mental toll is like, it's crazy. Like the clarity that comes from moving your body consistently is crazy. Like I have been very vocal about the fact that a morning routine has saved my life multiple times. And when I fall off that wagon, my life goes to crap. Like it starts with how I feel physically, and then mentally, and then it goes to financially, and then it goes to my relationships, and then it literally spirals when I'm not being intentional with movement and what I'm putting into my body. It changes everything. And I think, bronchitis is the example that I use, because bronchitis is such a little stinker to get rid of. And people will have this cough for like months, and then they're just kind of like living with this cough. And then they finally go to the doctor and they're like, they get antibiotics and they're not coughing anymore. And then they're like, how was I living with that cough for months? And I was just like, I have a cough now. People do that with anxiety, with inflammation, with feeling like crap, with depression. They're like, this is just how I feel in life. Then when you start like moving your body and paying attention to what you're putting into it, you're like, I can't believe I was living that way. You know what I mean? And then last thing is like the ADHD dopamine hit that you get from, or, well, this isn't ADHD, but ADHD, we don't have leveled dopamine ever. So, but when you're moving your body, you get natural dopamine hits that are not from your phone or drugs or alcohol or negative dopamine hits. You're getting a positive dopamine hit, which makes you want to do it more, and you get that clarity. So
Not yeah, and also I really like crossing things off of lists and checking boxes. Like even if I like when I make my grocery list, like I will make it like something that I can like I don't put just like a dash and then write the thing. Like I will put like a bubble or something that I can like check off or cross through. Like visually, it just helps me separate a task that needs to be done from one that has been completed. And like, I don't know, that gives me some sort of like,
So I have the opposite of that. I have so many tasks spread across so many lists that I actually have anxiety from that. I
mm.
can't take on any more lists. I can't take on any more tasks. I cannot like it. Yeah.
that's how I feel all the time. But man, doesn't it feel good to just cross one off?
So the minute that I read these, two things stood out to me. And I'm realizing that we should say this for the people out there. These buckets may not all apply to you. Some people aren't spiritual people, for instance. But I realized when I was reading these that the end too, the growth in the spirituality, growth for me is something I don't know how to not do. It's just ingrained, like it's part of the wave path of like my energy lengths, and I can't turn it off if I wanted to a point where it's a detriment sometimes. And the spiritual one, and we'll talk about this on a later one, but I've always just felt connected. So it's never really been something that I've focused on by a means of like balance. But I want to throw these two things out there so everybody watching can consider ways that these could like if these aren't making sense to you as like Brittany's walking through them for your life and you're having a hard time finding the things in your life to throw into these buckets. I'm just going to throw this little bit of information out there so that you can gain your own perspectives across across the board. I would change growth with KPIs for me, because there's a running list of KPIs that I keep. And maybe you're like this, maybe everybody out there has something different, but I pay special attention to like the percentage of meetings that I'm able to keep on my calendar, like my percentage I'm actually hitting. Number of times, like, am I balanced between the number of times in a week or in a day where in my head I either don't want to be somewhere or I don't want to leave somewhere? Is that balanced for me? Like, am I giving myself enough of the negative and the positive spaces? And then this is a big one for me. It's a personal issue, but how much am I apologizing? Just on a daily. Am I spending a lot of my day apologizing? Because if I am, it means there's things that aren't in the buckets they need to be in. But another one for me that's big, and I know this one's gonna hit for you, Brittany, and this is the whole reason I brought this up, is that I often won't realize when I'm not on track until I'm really, really, really off track. And I've realized recently that one of the ways that I have a clear indicator that I need to like reevaluate these things that we're talking about today is if I walk into my closet and it's chaos,
Oh, we've talked about this. Yes. There
right?
are
And
signs,
so,
and that's like you slip 1% at a time, but you don't notice until it's like something that you know, 10% you'll probably notice. Maybe not so much. 25%, like if a quarter of your shit is not together, you'll notice. But it happened 1% at a time. The same way that we spiral out of control is the same way that we get, you know, our control back.
and that's one of the things I just
I've
wanted to
always
bring up. And
said,
oh, go ahead, Chey.
I was just gonna say, I've always called myself a rock bottom learner. Like I
Yep.
usually have to get to that point where I'm either so anxious or so depressed or everything is such a shit show that I'm like, oh my God, I have, and then I will get my life together in a, a couple days to a week. I will have my shit back together. But this is actually, defiance is actually part of neurodivergence. We are naturally defiant people, and we can actually be that way with ourselves. Like, yeah, I know I'm not doing the right thing, but let's see how far it can go. I have some wiggle room yet.
Isn't it like sometimes if you're doing too good, like you feel like you need a little bit of like vice or chaos or something. Like, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like I don't know, I hate this term self-sabotage, but like we
Me
just
Don't
too.
hate
feel
it.
like
It's
we have
very
the
real.
tendency to sometimes lean towards chaos where it's like everything's like a cat. You know, it's like, huh, everything's very nicely situated on this shelf here. Be a shame if something fell off, you know. Why are we
Yeah.
like this?
I think maybe that was the point I was trying to make, is like, know your buckets, but also figure out your early detection system for when you need to look at your buckets.
Yeah.
Because the mess for me in my closet is like, that's where I've realized I can stop it before it becomes life encompassing and I end up in bed for 3 days rotting,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So
Like dishes
maybe
in the
like,
sink,
yeah,
you know, big one for me.
that's a constant in my house.
Yeah. I try really hard
So many people.
to like,
But I think that's why these buckets are important. And like, to the listeners, have your buckets, but the health, relationships, career growth, spiritual, you can change those to be whatever they need to be for you, and to revisit those buckets. Like, okay, I've been feeling anxious for 3 days in a row, and my closet's a mess, and I'm not feeling very good. Let me go see what bucket I'm not quite filling up, and
yeah.
then lean into that. But having something to revert back to is intentional, not being like, wow, I've been anxious for 3 days and my closet's a mess and my dishes are overflowing and I'm not going to deal with it.
Yep.
This is giving you direction to be like, all right, what pot am I not watering here? Which plant is wilting, and that's where I need to pick things back up.
Yeah, and like start where you stand. That's another reason that we wanted to do this is because it's like when you look around and you feel like none of your shit is together, like it's so overwhelming to be like, how am I going to get my shit collectively together. So this is just like an easy way to, if you have that aha moment where like my shit, oh my gosh, like my whole life is spiraling, and you have that moment when you walk in your closet, like start where you stand, just clean your closet, like, or put a
Yeah.
couple things away. And if it's like too much to do all of it and you're like whatever, like at least just leave it a little bit better than you found it. Not the same and not worse, and yeah, these are super interchangeable, like in some way, whatever just clicks for you, like health is important. If you don't have any, let's say, physical fitness goals or anything, like you don't have to, maybe your health bucket task includes like 5 minutes of sunshine in the morning, or like whatever it is, just like something that is going, or like getting a meal prep service, or like eating out only once a week, or like really whatever it looks like. But just having these terms kind of helps you narrow down, like, okay, if I am going to make a routine and health is important, well, what about my health is important to me? Okay, well, I know that I would be a healthier person if I lost like 20 pounds or whatever. Okay, so what do I have to do? And then you can reverse engineer that into like one simple daily task that's going to ultimately be a 1% change overall, and ultimately just you want to be like a complete person. If you're, if you only need to have one conversation and one friend per month, then like relationships doesn't mean you have to go out and make new friends. So all of these things are very much interchangeable. And I like what you said, Lyndsay, earlier too about like the spiritual bucket, because spirituality is so different for so many people. Like some people will just put faith or God or Jesus or whatever you want to put in that bucket. Spirituality for you could mean like going out and touching grass and like, I don't know, meditating, like holding a rock. You know what I mean? Like that's what spirituality sometimes looks like for me too. So yeah, or like
And then for
saging
other
your
people, it's
house.
like, yeah, other people, it's like praying, reading the Bible, going to church
Yeah.
this Sunday, like
Yeah.
whatever
For
floats
some
your boat.
people, for some people,
Absolutely.
it's therapy.
Yes. And
Totally.
and one of the, I mean, you can interchange the term on the spiritual bucket with just like higher consciousness. Like whatever makes you feel like you are tapping into like what is above this material superficial realm where we all have our stuff and our things and our jobs and our money and our this and our that. Like what's above that and
Can
what
we,
helps you tap into that.
can we,
And so
yeah. So I wanted to
there we
mention,
go.
just for my, our neurodivergent listeners, or if you have a neurodivergent family member, you're married to someone, there's someone in your life, who has neurodivergence, and you are feeling this way about yourself, or you're frustrated with someone that you love in your life who can't seem to stick to routine, or um, falls into that self-sabotage place, and you get really frustrated with yourself or with them, there is a reason why neurodivergent people tend to fall in and out of routines. And I just want to share that. So number one is going to be your inconsistent dopamine levels. So we routines often feel repetitive and boring, which means that they don't offer enough dopamine or serotonin to get us excited about them after it becomes something that we've been doing for a while. The other is time blindness. So people with neurodivergence often experience time blindness. So it's a difficulty in sensing how much time has passed or how much time something will take. And this makes planning and following a structured routine pretty tricky. And you might intend to do something at 9 a.m., but suddenly it's noon and you haven't started yet. Number three is going to be executive dysfunction. So executive functions help with organizing, prioritizing, starting tasks, and shifting between them. So with neurodivergence, these functions can lag behind. And that means that things like remembering the steps in your routine or shifting from one activity to the next can be a real challenge, even if you want to do them. Number four is going to be the all or nothing mindset. So people with ADHD specifically might think, if I don't do my whole morning routine perfectly, I failed. Therefore, I'm not going to even try to pick it up tomorrow. And then the last one is boredom intolerance. So if a routine feels dull, a person with ADHD may unconsciously avoid it. So boredom can actually feel like pain for the ADHD brain, which makes it hard to repeat mundane tasks every day. So I just wanted to throw that out there because as someone who has experienced extreme guilt for not having my life, like, me and consistency have never really been friends, but boy, when I'm being consistent, I am like on top of the world. But then when I fall off, I totally have that all or nothing mindset with everything in my life. When I fall off, I have like that extreme guilt. And sometimes I think looking at the facts and like the science and of our brain is like helpful to be like, okay, it's not me. This is how my brain works. It's okay. I need to revert back to my buckets and see what's lagging and, fill it back up. So,
Yeah. I love that because that's it might seem very, very simple, like in theory, just like, oh, figure out what's important to you and like what your goals are, and then just do things every day that get you closer. Like, yeah, we get it. It is simple when you say it like that. However, there are, chemical and personal reasons that is much harder for people with neurodivergence. And I think it's interesting too, is like the ADHD brain is going to have a different set of difficulties with this than the autistic brain, and I had this written down somewhere, but Lyndsay, if you have something off the top of your head about that.
Well, so there's actually I do.
Okay,
And I
I
think it
figured you
kind of
would because I had something specific, but
I think it comes down to also that balancing those things. Neurotypical person can become unbalanced and maintain unbalance for a temporary, even sometimes a prolonged amount of time, and not experience chemical imbalances because of it. We
and
don't
not
have that same
experience
luxury.
an emotional, like they may not even feel some type of way about it. Like they're just like, oh, this is what it is.
um, Potentially not even an extra energy expenditure. Where for us, we're balancing the extra energy expenditure, we're balancing the potential changes in chemical lack or influx of dopamine, all of these things that a neurotypical person balances their chemistry just balances it on its own, where we will end up either in a deficit, or otherwise. And I think that's part of it, is that the balance is going to be much more important for people like us, because the consequences of being unbalanced for any length of time are drastically heavier.
Yeah. And I feel like we talk so much about time management, but I feel like success or like being able to stick to a routine or consistency, like that's way more about energy. It's about managing energy across all dimensions, not so much managing time, you know? And like that, yeah, that's where I feel the biggest like mental shift for me is like, okay, it's not that I have to like figure out 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's like, how much energy does this thing need to be, taking from me? And like, I heard this a while ago that was really helpful. It's like, okay, if you're juggling, right, you're juggling all these things, like the ball that you focus on is the one that's falling. And for me, that was like,
what
okay,
does
so
that
where
mean?
am I? Huh?
The ball that you focus on I don't know what that means.
So basically like so when you're juggling, right? Like if you're like juggling balls or whatever, like the the one that you focus on, like where do you put your eyes is like the ball that's falling. So that's the one that
Oh,
yes.
okay.
So when you're trying to juggle like your life buckets and you feel like everything is in disarray, the thing that you should focus on, the thing that should have most of your energy is like the thing that would shatter if it fell. Like you have, let's say you're juggling and it's like maybe your health bucket is like a rubber ball where it's like I'm pretty healthy. If I get sick, I'll bounce back. Like, that's all good. I'm not too worried about it. Maybe you are in like some financial disarray. And so that's not a ball, that's like a glass. And you're like, if this drops, it will shatter and it will create a lot of problems. And then, so, you can kind of rate those buckets based on like, okay, like if I drop this one, is it going to bounce back or is it going to shatter? Like your relationships, like we all have friendships that we have like best friends that we don't talk to for like a month or 2 months or whatever at a time. That's a rubber ball for some of us, because
Totally.
it's like we just pick up right where we left off. It's like we've been friends for 20 freaking years. We don't need to do all this stuff. Like if I talk to you every 2 months, like we're just going to catch up for 6 hours. But if I don't talk to that person for 2 months, that's a rubber ball. I know it's going to come back. Versus like your spouse or your significant other, like probably should talk to them more often. So if you don't talk to them for a month, like you see what I'm saying? But yeah, the one that you focus on is the one that's falling.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay. Sorry, it took a beat there. Had to recombobulate. But
There
so
has been editing.
yes. So having said all that, I'm really glad that Chey talked about those things that make it uniquely difficult for ADHD, with the perception, time perception, and executive dysfunction. So what what do you need to focus on when you're making a sustainable routine? So here's a couple things that I kind of wrote down as far as like how can you tailor a sustainable routine to someone who's neurodivergent in such a way that it will be rewarding for that person, it will be um, uniquely variable for that person. So know that it has to be personalized. Like, don't try to be David Goggins if that's just not how you're wired. Figure out how you're wired and know thyself, and then figure out what's important to you. So, like visual and auditory aids that can be super helpful. I personally love the visual aids. I can have a to-do list in my phone somewhere and it will do me zero good. I need that to-do list on a whiteboard right in front of my master bathroom sink. That's where like my master to-do list is. And then I literally do it the night before. Yeah. So it has to be in front of my face and sometimes multiple ways. My Google Calendar, that's great. I need a big master calendar. And some people are more auditory. Like if you have to do something at a certain time, like if you have to take your medicine at a certain time, like set an alarm. And with the alarm,
Yeah.
it'll, things that'll,
You guys know I
it's like
love
I have to
my
remember to. It's like you don't have to remember. Your phone can remember for you.
Yeah, totally. Use tools so that you don't have
Yes.
to rely completely on yourself. And you guys know I love my reminders, but when I was just talking to Lyndsay about this a couple weeks ago, when I was little, my mom, like I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 7 years old. My mom was like, okay, she does a lot better with a routine because when she's off of a routine, everyone in this household feels the wrath of it. And so she made me a to-do list, like a morning routine and like chores and stuff. She printed it off, she got it laminated, she put a hole punch on it and put magnets on the back, tied a string in the hole punch with a marker, like a dry erase. And every day I would mark off my tasks and stuff. And it worked really well. And I was like, right now, full transparency, I am in a place that in my life that completely lacks intention. And a lot of parts of my life have not been ideal for the last several months. So I'm getting back into it. So I'm honestly so glad we're talking about this today. So I'm going to re implement what my mom did for me as an elementary school child. And I'm going to redo it because it worked. And I am living with the same brain that I had back then. And I like lists. I need to be able to see it. And I want to, I'm the same with you, Brittany, as I love the satisfaction of marking things off. Um, so I'm going to re-implement that, but like it doesn't have to be complicated or extensive because let me tell you, when a routine gets too complicated, the neurodivergent brain is going to get overwhelmed and then we are going to be like, never mind. I am not even going to touch it. It's too much. It starts to look like a pile of overflowing laundry. So keeping it very simple, I think is extremely helpful. And then also giving yourself grace. So let's say you want to start working out. So, and let's say that you like HIIT workouts and lifting weights. Great. So, with our brains are already inconsistent. So, if you start working out, you say, I want to work out 5 days a week for 45 minutes. And it's going really well, really well, really well. 2 weeks in, it's feeling like a habit, but boom, you just don't feel like it today. We have two options. You can stay in bed and then your pattern gets interrupted, which can be extremely detrimental for people like us. Or two, you can still go and move your body, but today it's going to look different because you're sore, you're tired, you just don't want to pick up a weight today. Still go on a walk because that tells your brain, okay, at the same time, like we always do, we got up and we moved our body because that's what we do now. So instead of going from 100 to 0, we're continuing that habit just in a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that's why I really like the specificity of it too, is like, it doesn't have to be, I'm going to work out for 45 minutes and lift weights every day. It's like, I'm going to move my body. And whatever move your body means, like we move our body in the morning. Why? Because it gets the blood flow stimulated. It gives me that dopamine hit. Like chemically, it helps. Physically, you may not want to do it, but chemically, just do something that also has that. Like even if you like wake up late and you're scrambling, whatever, do jump in place, do jumping jacks for like 2 minutes. Like start where you stand. Just do the minimally invasive or difficult thing in order to get the job done and say, did I move my body today? Well, actually, yes, I did.
Then
Can
you're
I
proud.
give you guys something that was
like, that's all I was going to say. Then you're just like, I'm always proud of myself when I stick to something, you know? So,
can I give you guys something helpful that my therapist actually taught me?
Please do.
We don't have the same 24 hours in our day. We do not have the same 24 hours as a neurotypical person. And the moment that you understand what your 24 hours looks like, and I mean this by ways of energy means. So like I know that my 24 hours, I have a really good block of energy and the ability to focus from about 6 o'clock in the morning until about 11 o'clock in the morning. And then I know that my energy wanes for the next about 3 hours until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I know that I have like another little burst of energy and a whole bunch of family stuff and the end of my workday. But I know that that's how my 24 hours is structured energy wise. And I think that as a neurodivergent, knowing your pattern is going to set building your routine up for a lot better success. Like I know that I have my biggest energy chunk this early in the morning. So that's probably when I want to be doing my workout. That's when I want to, you know what I mean? And then I know that I want to set up my work day to have my less taxing like brain items in the latter half of the day. So if I'm taking scheduling meetings where I know that I have to perform, recordings where I know I have to be on with what I'm talking about, that is all going to fall very early in the morning for me. So that was something that I think has helped me not only like create my buckets, but use them better.
Yes. I think
You
that's
know?
so important because again, it's just comes down to energy management. What is important to you and how do you manage your energy and how much energy are you going to give to every specific task? And
Mhm.
take note of that however like you want to, or however makes sense to you. Like if you're, if you have a lot going on and things are chaotic, I mean, for my husband and I, we literally moved like twice or three times and then like started two businesses and then, you know, and then all of a sudden I am off my routine. I've gained weight. Have less energy. And it's like, it's not all of a sudden. It was like the cumulative stress and then getting a little off the routine, a little off the routine, a little off the routine. So it's like you're not going to get 100% back to that. Now my energy levels and my energy diversification, how it looks throughout the day, it might be a little bit different than it was. So it's like I have to remember like, okay, I'm not going to be, it's not my routine is not going to look the same as it did in 2022 as like a single person who was only focused on capitalizing on, my solar career and all I had was a dog to take care of and all I did was work out. All I did was work and work out. I had 2 buckets, 3 buckets, dog,
sure.
Bag and body. That was it. I have many more buckets now. So it's not going to look the same, but like know how to take that inventory. And there's actually talking about taking that inventory. I wrote down a couple things that might be super helpful. So,
And
you
I'm
gotta
going
pee?
to pee my pants.
Okay,
You're
go.
fine. Go ahead.
So, how do we take inventory of that, and how do you start to know yourself? If you don't already, just, well, it sounds simple, but pay attention in such a way that you can remember what you have paid attention to. For the short term, I like using a notes folder. If I notice a correlation with something I've eaten and how I feel, or the amount of time that I have spent on my phone, or like if I've been on social media a lot, like I'll make a little note. But having like a weekly energy inventory at the end of the week is like, that's a really good way to check in. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just like, what did I do this week that made me feel energized? And what did I do this week that made me feel drained? Like, what fueled me and what drained me? When did I feel, like I was excited or had the energy to do what I wanted to do?
How
Um,
many times did I not want to be where I was at versus how many times did I
yeah,
not want to leave?
yeah,
Such a
yeah,
clear marker
exactly.
for me.
Yeah, 100%. And visual habit tracking, I feel like we talked about that, like the lists and give yourself a sticker system. Who cares? Put a little smiley face. Like in school when it's like, did you complete your homework? Like, yes, I did. Did you clean up your workstation?
What I'm
Yes, I
saying,
did. Like,
I'm going back.
I
I'm
should
going back
yeah.
to do what I did in elementary school, and I have no
You should
shame.
you should like show us what it looks like when you do it, because I bet it's also going to be like super cute and everything knowing you.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what it looks like because I will adopt one.
Okay, yeah, it's very
That's
simple. These are
Shay
the
should
things
make
I
a
know
product
makes
line.
me
Yes.
what?
Oh,
Shay
Oh,
should make a product line.
yes.
yeah, that would be cool.
Um, yeah, I'd buy it. Routine habit
Mhm.
stacking, if that works for you. Sometimes if you have ADHD, maybe habit stacking isn't the best thing because then you can get on a little bit of like a spirally rabbit hole. For example, if you try to, let's say, while I'm brushing my teeth, I tried doing this because my friend told me about it, but for like women's pelvic health, if you do like hip, like knee raises, like a walking in place hip march type thing. And so my friend was like, well, I've been habit stacking it. And it's like just, intentional breath work and like doing the little hip marches. But she was like, I was doing it while I was brushing my teeth. And I tried doing that. And dude, 30 seconds later, I was in a different room with my toothbrush. Okay. So, like, sometimes habit stacking doesn't work for ADHD because it, like, one thing leads to another. And now you're just like doing something completely different and it's too much. What are you going to say,
I
Lindsay?
do at one point want to talk about value stacking though, because I'm realizing we haven't talked about that at all. I mean, I've talked about it like on stage at women and women's retreats and stuff, but we haven't talked about it on here. And that's probably a massive tool for the neurodivergent, I'm realizing. So at some point we will talk about that.
We can, yeah, let's definitely talk about that. Because the only other thing that I was going to mention is rest is not a reward. Rest
Hmm.
should be part of your routine, Lindsay.
Rest is
I feel so
necessary.
called out right now. I know. I
It's
am
one
in
of the
the
things that you have to do. It's on your to-do list. It is not a
I have
thing
gotten
that
better.
you get once you've completed your to-do list.
Yeah, we're not sleeping when we're dead. I
Yeah.
have gotten better. I have been prioritizing my sleep much more this year because it's on my vision board. Who has to do that? Um, but I'm
People
also
who don't sleep.
I am transitioning professionally right now and trying to manage learning a whole new career. While the other one is like kind of in the middle of a dumpster fire. So, you know,
Be like that
uh,
though.
I do. Yeah. And I'm getting better. I am. I think I'm averaging like 4.5 hours a night now. And like a good night is
Oh,
6, but
maybe.
that's a whole hour plus to what I was doing last year. So there is an improvement. I've improved 25%, to
Yeah,
be
we
fair.
yeah.
To be fair, I'm making strides. Uh
We should
value
totally talk
stack.
about value stacking.
Value stacking. This is something I started when I first got into the door-to-door industry because I had a young child at home and three others and you know, a whole lot of stuff going on in the personal life, and quit my career before I got my first sale. So it was kind of all hands on deck. And I realized very quickly that I was neglecting people and or responsibilities, and there was really no way for me to get everything done without some percentage of neglect, right? So
Some
I
percentage of neglect. I
some
like
percentage
that.
of neglect. Yes, I hate it because it remains true to this day. It's
Yep.
just it's which level of guilt can I swallow? Because that's really what it comes down to. But I realized something very early, and it was that if I was going to have something in each bucket, I was going to have to stack my buckets because I had too many buckets. I didn't have 5 buckets. I had 4 buckets just in kids. I mean, at the time, 4 kids in house, a husband, 2 dogs, rabbit, there household stuff. There was a lot of stuff going on back then for me. I mean, we're talking 2020, and then my health tanked, and then Christian's health tanked, and it's just I've had to stack since. So this is what stacking value is for me. Every time that I look at bringing something new into my life, it has to drop pebbles into at least 2, if not more, of my buckets. So it has to stack its value and what it's giving me in my ROI. So like if I am not spending enough time on myself, for instance, let's look at it from a hobby point of view, right? If I'm not spending enough time on myself and my self-love, mental health, physical health, emotional health, if that bucket is off balance, because that's where I see it in myself at least, is I will get a little depressy if I'm not taking care of my me time because I'm introverted and I spend too much time being extroverted. So I gotta recharge. If I'm looking at bringing something on, I am going to look at how is it going to benefit each of my other things, right? So if I'm bringing on, what I ended up bringing on in this was Mountaintop Mondays. And so Mountaintop Mondays is, I generally, if I can, I will take at least half the day on Monday off and I will get out into nature. That drops into my spiritual bucket. It drops into my growth bucket. While I'm out on my own, I'm learning new places, etc., where I can take my kids so that they can experience more nature. That drops into my family bucket. I'm hitting at least 3 buckets there, adding this thing into my weekly schedule. And so if it doesn't add into multiple things, if it doesn't benefit, like I won't look at taking on new career stuff if it doesn't also fit my soul and it doesn't also fit, because I operate entirely from ethics now and integrity on business. I do not operate from money at all anymore. So it has to fit that. It has to benefit my family in some way. Like there has to be at least like at this point in my life, it's got to be 3 or 4 buckets or it's not worth me even looking at.
Yeah.
But that's how I stack value. And that's how I maintain, like, that's how when everybody's like, how do you do it all? Everything that I do has widespread value for every arena of my life for the most part.
I like that. So value stacking, before adding something into your life, make sure it benefits 2 or more aspects of your life. That's really interesting, you know, because like if you are, I don't know, finances come up to me. Like if you are not in a good place financially and you have some things to take care of and a big ski trip comes into the group chat and you really want to go, you're like, this is not adding to any of my buckets. It's actually taking away, and I probably shouldn't do that. You know,
like it might add
you're
to
back
your relationship bucket or something, but if it takes away from your bucket and that bucket is the ball that's falling.
Yeah, not a good idea. So that comes with hard decisions, but that's a good way to
so
look
this
at
is
it.
this is the visual that I think everybody should put in their brains. You need to put those buckets on a scale. A 5 a 5-armed scale that if one of them is too heavy or one is too light, they all start to move, right? And you need to start thinking about it in that way. So when you're adding, at least when from a value stacking point of view. So when you add to multiple, it maintains more of that balance. See, so it's not, that's kind of how I think about it in my head. That's the visual.
I like that. Cause like what comes to mind for me with that is if like someone has like a career success bucket and then they have a family bucket and this one's really heavy, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm pouring way too much into this. I need to spend more time with my family. So you got to take some out of here and put it in here. I like that a lot. That's great.
Yeah.
Really
yeah, I like that a lot. There's a couple of those like little techniques I think that that I found that have helped me a lot too. Like you already mentioned this, Chey, is like having grace with yourself. Like your routine should have built-in flexibility. You know what I mean? So like it should be flexibility paired with consistency. The thing that will allow you to be consistent is if you allow yourself to be flexible with what that means. And then like we're also very environmentally sensitive, I feel like too. Like we kind of talked about this. It's like if our environment's a mess, then we're a mess. But like we can also use our environments as like a tool or like a cue, you know? So like environmental cues and triggers, like visual cues and textures and like your personal preferences, like, you know, where you have things like I think Mike O'Donnell talks about this. He's like, yeah, I have my pill box, like, or he has his all his like vitamins and everything like on a dish, like right in front of, you know, on the counter. It's like same thing, you know. I have gotten so good at taking my vitamins every day that they now can live in a drawer, and 9 times out of 10, I will take my vitamins even though they're not on the counter. They're in the drawer because I know now. But if you have to like leave stuff on the counter so that you remember putting your clothes out the night before, like
object permanence.
Yes, because stuff disappears. If it disappears from sight, it will disappear from our brains. Like for a lot of
that
us,
emotionally,
but huh?
Oh,
I have that. I have emotional permanence issues.
Yeah, I do. Well, I don't know.
Or it's like if it's not in front of you, you don't care as much.
I call it people permanence. Like when I moved to Texas, I had to be extremely intentional with keeping up with my friends in Kansas because it was like, I mean, I had a friend call me and was like, what the fuck? You have not called me. You have not talked to me. You moved to Texas. I just don't hear from you. And I'm like, I am so sorry. I think about you. I just
all the time.
I just don't.
It's not intentional.
Not at all. So I had to put intention behind it.
Yeah. I've even struggled with that with like relationships and like family members and like,
oh yeah.
Because my connection to them is still here. And it doesn't like it's also a little bit of a time awareness thing, I think too.
Yeah.
I often don't
like,
realize how long it's been since I talked to somebody.
Exactly.
No clue.
Exactly.
It could have been 3 days, it could have been 3 years. I've got no idea. I know what you said. I just have no idea when that happened. Seriously. It makes arguing really hard too, because I'll remember very key facts, but it's like, oh no, that was the wrong conversation. I'm like, oh shit.
Dude, when it comes to like getting in a spat with someone or something and they come with mental receipts, I'm cooked. I have no receipts. I'm like, we were fighting. I said, what? I'm sorry.
I have no receipts.
None. And my friend will be like, on August 23rd at 12:23 p.m., you said this. And I'm like, what? I did? My bad.
That was a different Chey. That was my other self. That wasn't me. That was Patricia.
I take things too literally though. I will read things, especially in text. I will read them for exactly the verbiage in my monotone because fucking tism. And then I'm like, oh, you too then. And they're like, no, that wasn't what I meant at all. And I'm like, oh, all of that, all of those things I disconnect with. My brain.
So that's a really good segue to my next thing I was going to say, which is sensory regulation and nervous system regulation as being a key factor for neurodivergence. Because guess what? It took us a really long time to figure it out and to put any intention behind it. But for neurodivergence, I feel like a lot of times the routine isn't just a task. Like it is a it is your nervous system setup is what it is. Like by the order in which you do certain things and the things that you do in that order, you are setting your nervous system up for the rest of the day, for the rest of the week. Like it is about, and again, it comes back to energy regulation, but we're literally regulating our nervous systems with everything that we do or don't do. What's out there? I want to know what's happening.
I know. What's going on out there, Chey?
Oh, I have new growth on my plant. It looks really good. I
Oh,
was
I
like,
love your
wow,
heart.
you are looking sturdy and green and really beautiful.
Thank you
I
for
checked out
saying
first.
that.
I checked
I
out
also
first.
feel sturdy and green and beautiful.
Oh, I love that.
I didn't even notice I was doing that. Sorry.
I don't know. I thought that you were like watching birds or something,
I thought it was a
maybe.
train.
Damn
Could have been
train.
anything, really.
Seriously,
Last two things I'll say on the like your considerations for creating your routine is having a passion driven structure, and this comes back to like the dopamine rich kind of stimulation that you can get. Hyperfixation for us can be either a tool or a trap, so be mindful with that. Um, and I don't know, man, you got to ride the manic waves too. Like, if you feel this crazy burst of energy for like 3 hours or 3 days or whatever, freaking do as much as you possibly
Go.
can. Don't try to like, don't be like, oh, I shouldn't, it's 3 a.m. I shouldn't have energy right now. It's like, well, you do. Instead of trying to force yourself to sleep, like, do whatever the thing is. Like, if that's your time to get stuff done, like get stuff done. If it's like, for me, it's like the full moon. Like it's hard for me. I can't sleep well when there's like a full moon. So it's like I'll have more energy at night during a full moon, you know? And so I've caught myself like trying to be like, no, stay in bed. Like I don't need to do that. You know, you can definitely ride the manic waves as they benefit you, as they suit you. And then have grace with
Yeah.
yourself when you're not in that episode and you do need more sleep or more comfort or more whatever, take what you need. And then also something that I feel like we've been doing really well since we started this group chat is community and co-regulation because group chats and accountability and like shared to-dos, I feel like they can be a lot more rewarding for neurodivergence too. And so I feel like we all kind of benefited when we like started this group chat because it made us all a little bit like more aware and more like, oh, I should start doing that again, or oh yeah, that did help me, or oh yeah, like you know what I mean? And so you utilize that as a tool as well. Like I feel like a lot of times neurodivergence can thrive when success is collective.
I agree.
And so
The tribe.
yeah,
Tribe vibes, babe.
tribe vibes indeed.
Tribe vibes. Yeah, this is the most successful group chat I've ever had.
Yeah.
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 I mean, and I've learned so much from this. I know, I mean, we get DMs and stuff all the time from people that and comments, all the things from people that are right here in this like learning journey with us. Um, hell yeah. I
It's
love
been
that.
pretty cool.
Tribe vibes. I do. If you anybody else have anything they want to add to their buckets? No?
You guys are in my buckets.
Yeah, you guys are in mine too. I
You
love
guys are
y'all.
in my buckets.
Better be.
Y'all, everybody out there, by the way, give Chey a quick congratulations in the comments because she got engaged. Look at it. Oh
Yay!
my gosh.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, y'all.
Thank
If
you.
you found any value from today, like, share, subscribe, post us anywhere you like, as long as it's legal. We love you to death. Till next week. SOS out.